we're back. We've got a whole new project and a whole new raft of developers. Let me introduce Isaac Donkoh-Halm. He's a WPI 2020 alumni, currently team assistant at Bad Robot Games. JJ Abrams waves hello. Currently stuck between 5 RPGs and is very bad at all of them. And Adam Schneider is a sound designer, composer, and electronic musician based outside of Boston and currently employed at Firaxis Games. For the last decade, he's been creating sounds and music for video game and musical instrument companies and has worked on game franchises that include XCOM 2, Skylanders, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, Transformers, War for Cybertron, and Guitar Hero. We've also got Joe Swetz and Cameron Persh. Person. Sorry, I'm like leaning over to see past the corner of my other monitor. They're some of the developers on Catalyst. Could you, Cameron and Joe, could you tell us people in your group who aren't here and let us know and give a shout out to them?
Yeah, so we have three other members on our team, Alejandra Garza, Adam DeVoe, and Jim Plant. Should we just hop into the description of the game or?
Cool, yeah. Why don't you tell us about the game and tell us who did what?
Yeah, so first of all, Catalyst is a first-person multiplayer capture the flag type of shooter. But the twist is that instead of using guns, you use spells, and more specifically, you combine spells with 3 elements. And so basically you have water, fire, and thunder, and you can combine them with repetitions. Order doesn't matter, so you get 10 different spells, and that's the main premise. As for who did what, we didn't have an artist, so there was a lot of collaborative work on a lot of things. I mostly focused on spells. Alejandra and Jim did a lot of the map design and other gameplay elements that are kind of behind the scenes. Adam worked a lot with us on the kind of later component, which is kind of the latency compensation, which we'll get into later. And then Joe was our big multiplayer man, which was a big part of the game.
Nice. So what like inspired you to make this? Like specifically, I guess the combining the spells elements. I know Fortnite was very tongue-in-cheek mentioned during the very funny gameplay trailer I saw on YouTube.
Yeah, we had a couple of different games that we were inspired by. A big one was a Spellbreak, which is a sort of battle royale game in which you are casting spells as your main weapon to defeat other players. And then there's also the Invoker character in Dota, where you are combining 3 different elements to create different types of attacks. So we kind of got inspired by creating a combination of those two, and then sort of putting it into a sort of multiplayer deathmatch, capture the flag kind of setting.
Why those 3 elements in particular? Water, fire, electricity.
Yeah, first we were going kind of back and forth in terms of like what tone and what setting we wanted. We have a little bit of lore that's not really expressed through the game, but it's kind of post-apocalyptic. You can kind of see some elements of that in the map. So we were going to go with more kind of obscure kind of things like sound and gravity as elements. We decided to keep it a little bit more simple and basic so that it was easier to understand as soon as you got into the game, understanding what you would be working with.
So I have to ask, because I'm an audio guy, who did the audio? Who did like the sound effects and stuff like that?
Yeah, that was mostly me. I'm kind of our fake artist to some degree. We got a lot of sound effects from so there were 2 main sources. There was lots of kind of free sound effects that we then had to modify and tweak for our own benefit. And then there was another source, which was this relates to our art assets as well, the character models. There was this canceled game by Epic Games called Paragon that had a lot of free art assets and sound assets for all their characters. And we were able to use that for things like the hurt effects and the dying effects and things like that.
Nice. I thought you did a really good job, especially when you activate each ability. I think each one had like a unique identifier, and that really helped out, because there's 12, I think, different abilities. How many are
10 different spells, yeah.
There's 10 different spells, and it helped really distinguish each one, even if I didn't like see which one I happened to code in really quickly.
This is a question for Joe, and I'm not sure if it's been like thrown around about, but like wanted to ask you about your choice in engine and like what was it like developing a multiplayer game in Unreal Online?
Yeah, so this project was run in collaboration with Google Stadia, and they were trying to do more with latency compensation on the platform. And sort of a prerequisite of the project was specifically to use Unreal Engine. So sort of using that, none of us had done multiplayer before, so it was a lot of trying to learn how to do multiplayer, not only in general, because none of us had done multiplayer games before, but also doing it in Unreal Engine. And so it consisted of a lot of reading through what little documentation there is, and then also walking through different tutorials just to learn how to do multiplayer in Unreal. So it was a big learning process.
I thought you guys did a very good job of thematically combining the 3 different elements into like unique abilities that made sense with what you were mixing, kind of. Can you talk a little bit about the process of choosing the abilities and like how you balanced it from a game design standpoint versus offensive and defensive? Did you find any troubles with that?
Yeah, that was an interesting process for me. And then I went back with all the team. I kind of spearheaded that and then got feedback and then we got play testing. But the main premise is that fire is offensive, water's defensive, lightning is utility. So then you take different parts of that and you get different things. So for example, you do fire, water, and that is a spell that is 2 parts offensive and 1 part defensive. You get the steam shield that you can still fire through offensively, but it's slightly defensive. You do water, fire, and you get a spell that is 2 parts defensive, mostly defensive, and 1 part offensive. So it kind of went like that. And then the last spell, when you combine all elements, is just a nullification of magic.
Do y'all plan on developing this this concept further and maybe like releasing this or like either on itch or even like a public store front like Steam or Epic?
Currently, we are still talking about our sort of plans for the future with the game, although I do know that our advisor is seeking to do another iteration of this MQP next year with latency compensation on Stadia. And so there are talks about doing that MQP with the game that we created and sort of building off on that.
Nice. What do you plan on doing next?
I think next, I mean, so hopefully, if that goes through, Google seemed to kind of like this project, and we're able, our professor, our advisor rather, already asked us to give them the game. We might be able to work with the next MQP team and get them started and see where this goes. And if they really like it, then maybe we could develop even Catalyst further as a game.
Excellent. Hi, I'm back. So this is really interesting and totally cool. And 10 minutes goes by so quickly. Thanks, Joe and Cameron. We're going to take a brief intermission and shuffle people out, and we'll be back with our next project.